Hey guys, this is Tinny with Nature to Go, and today we are going to meet Roz, and Roz is my cane toad. Uh, so we're gonna take her out in a moment, but I'm just gonna give a chance for people to come on. So this week we don't have anything special going on. We have some birthday parties coming up this weekend, which I have found to be really fun. And we don't start summer camp stuff until the first week of June. And then June gets really crazy for us because we have lots of summer camps booked. And so hopefully I can keep the momentum going from there. And so I'll just, like I said, other than that, I'm just busy taking care of animals. Today we are in my animal room, which is technically an enclosed sunroom. It's got heater and air condition and stuff like that, but it is pretty much separate from my house. So if people have had questions about where I keep all these animals, it's basically in here. And then you can kind of see right here is some of my guys. And this is a French door that we don't use anymore. But my Jackson's chameleon right there, his name is Gru. And then I have a gray rat snake. She's kind of nestled up right there. And you can't see him right now. Yeah, you can. That's Henry. Henry's hungry. Today is feeding day. So later on this afternoon, all the snakes are going to get fed. But anyway, welcome. We're going to talk about Roz. Roz is such a fun creature. So I recently got her. And basically, we got her so we could talk about invasive species. And the thing about invasive species is that other than like if you take out all the destruction and all the monetary damage and stuff and ecological damage, they're really neat animals. These are animals that can fill a niche that may or may not have been filled before. And they're usually very flexible about uh, their adaptations are pretty broad. So it's not something like a gopher tortoise, which only has a specific environment that they could live in. These guys are pretty well, they can just handle all sorts of environmental pressures, which is cool in a way, but it's really bad for us. So cane toads are originally from South America and Central America. And the biggest place that they were kind of introduced to first wasn't in the United States. They were introduced in, let me see if I could grab her with her peeing all over the place. Ooh. These guys were introduced in actually in Australia of all places to get rid of a sugarcane beetle that was attacking their crops. Now these guys do eat the sugarcane beetles, but a lot of times the sugarcane beetles would be up high away from these guys. And they get quite large. So Roz is just a really young toad right now. She's going to get a lot bigger. So she's going to get up to about 9 inches long, which is huge. It's bigger than my Colorado river toad that we've met previously, and he's down here underneath where Henry is. But so they get huge and they get a lot bigger. So whenever I said that the Colorado river toad was the largest native species to the United States, these guys are the largest toad species found in the United States. And right now they're mostly found in Florida. But anyway, we're going to get back to Australia. So Australia released these as a form of biocontrol. And biocontrol can backfire or it can work out really well. So here in Louisiana, we're using a type of beetle that attacks the water hyacinth and kills off water hyacinth. Now, the biggest thing with biocontrol is that we have to make sure that it doesn't jump species into something else that is native. So right now, I know it's been used in a controlled setting by LSU, And I haven't read much up on it since then. So I'm going to have to read up a little bit more about it, especially once I start doing more invasive species talks to my public programs or my group programs. So this is Roz, right? She doesn't look very impressive right now. Like I said, she's going to get very large. Now, the thing about all frogs and toads is that they will eat anything that they could put in their mouth. So she's got a pretty big mouth right now. So she's about as big as my hand. So she fits in my hand pretty well. So she can eat things like small mice, even smaller toads and stuff, birds, anything that she can fit in her mouth, basically, she can eat. Now, once they get bigger, that causes lots of issues. So, what are the myths that are kind of hanging around these guys? And I don't use her in my Animal Mythbusters program, but she's got some myths swirling around that that are actually pretty false, and a lot of people believe. So these guys, especially adults, think that if you lick this toad, you can hallucinate with. I'm here to tell you don't do that because it'll make you very, very sick. It might put you so out of it that you might think you're hallucinating. But their bufotoxin is very, very toxic. And so let me see if I could show you her if I move her around. Now, I'm not going to go lick my fingers after I handle her. And she's peeing on me again. It's just a defense mechanism. I just figured that she had so much pee in her earlier that she would have peed herself out, but apparently she has not. All right, so right here, right behind her head, are those toxin glands. And sometimes those glands will stretch all the way down to the middle of their back, and they can actually push it out. Now, with this, because of their large size, these guys can be very dangerous to smaller to mid-sized pets. And so I lived in Tampa for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years or so. And these guys weren't considered a species that we had to look out for whenever we lived there. We had other invasive species. We had nidanoles, which were really trippy. And one day, if you sit there and talk to me, and and we get to talking about invasive species, I'll tell you about my nidanole story. But so these guys weren't a big, anything to look out for unless you lived in South Florida. So they in South Florida, they came by way of the pet trade, and then a lot of the horticulture, the plant shipments and stuff from South America and stuff. Ports are usually a key place for a lot of invasive species. Like here we have there's different things like zebra mussels and stuff, and they ships and stuff. But this one, like I said, in Australia, they were purposely let go. And now they are so invasive, and they have caused extinctions for several different species of things like birds and stuff like that, that they are taken really seriously. They cannot be annihilated over there. So basically, they have a management program. Here in Louisiana, they are not considered a species yet that we have to worry about. But as long as people are responsible keepers that have these guys in their collection, as long as they don't get tired of them and release them, uh, and we just stay vigilant, uh, hopefully these guys don't make their way here. Although I do belong to a group called Lair, and there's been sightings of these guys, but hopefully our hopefully our winter stay cold enough to kind of deter these guys from setting up shop here. Like I said, Roz is really small. Now, let's talk about the neat stuff about these. Like I said earlier on, invasive species usually have really cool and broad adaptations to make them so successful. And Roz and cane toads in general, uh, have really cool adaptations. The first thing is that males can reproduce as males and they can also reproduce as females. So I am not sure on Roz's sex right now. I am just calling her, a she, but appropriately, usually I call them they because I don't know what they are yet. I just called her Roz because she looks like Roz from Monsters Inc. Now, if she were a male and her reproductive organs got damaged, Roz can then reproduce as a female because they also have one singular female organ inside of them. I'm just trying to hold her out because she was acting like she was going to use the bathroom on me again, and I didn't want her to pee on my feet. So they're really that adaptation is so cool whenever you're thinking about something that isn't an invasive species, right? And there's a lot of animals out there that will turn from male to female, female to male. And there's a really cool fish that'll do it as well. If the male dies off, the female, now, one of the strongest females will turn into that male and she'll change appearances. But these guys don't change sex or anything like that. They just have a female ovary inside of them, just one, so they can continue reproducing. And they reproduce all year long. And this is something that, like, in their native range, they live in Central and South America. So they pretty much they live along that equatorial line and that area where it never has like a distinct uh, season. So they're able to reproduce all year long. And in normal instances where they live at in their native ranges, they do have predators that eat them. But, and you could tell Roz is kind of blowing up. So Roz is trying to deter me from actually holding her, which is another cool adaptation. So if they're caught by snakes and stuff like that, there are snakes that are well equipped to eat these guys, but it's only in their native range. They also have things like caiman and mammals and stuff like that that actually are okay with the toxin, or they know how to work their way around those glands to where they don't get sick. All of our native stuff, either wherever they're invasive at, don't have those adaptations to go ahead and eat them. So it's not as simple as, like, if they are in Florida, it's not as simple as an alligator being able to eat them, because they just might not be able to handle that toxin depending on the size of the alligator. But they are pretty cool. Let's see, what else was really cool? So toads, you can handle a lot longer than you can frogs, and just because their skin is drier. But before I handle Roz, I am considerate of her. I rinse my hands off really well with water that has been treated for amphibian use. And then I don't usually use any kind of soap or anything because they can still absorb things through their skin. They just can't absorb it at a rate that a frog can. And Roz is really cool. So if you want these as a pet, just stay aware that you have to know your state's regulations. So right now in Louisiana, we don't have regulations, but there are regulations in other states that would prohibit you from owning animals that can potentially be invasive, whether it's a large snake, a cane toad, or something like a ferret. Because ferrets can become invasive, especially if you live in an area where black-footed ferrets, for instance, are native to. So there's all sorts of restrictions. Just be aware that wherever you are of those restrictions, and then plan on, these guys live for a long time. So you want to make sure that you are their keeper for their entire life. So these guys cannot and should not, and this goes for any animal, should never be released into the wild. And mostly because of, like I said, their nifty way of, like, if Roz was a male and something happened to his male organs and stuff, he still can produce as a female. And so that is problematic if they do get loose or set free. Now, if you do have them as a pet, they are very cool. They're very personable. They get to know you very well. They have different mannerisms. They can actually become really friendly and interactive with you. And they won't, and if they're friendly and they're used to being handled, then for the most part, you don't have to worry about them excreting their toxin. It's just you want to practice good hygiene, no matter what animal it is, but especially with something like these guys right here. Usually they don't mind being touched. Like I said, Roz is very young right now, so all about peeing on me, and that's just something that is not very labor inducive to create. It's just a natural bodily function. But if she would use her toxin glands, she would have to expend energy to create more toxins, so she's less likely to push out that toxin. But if she does, you'll see it. It'll be like a milky white color. And like I said, I'm not gonna lick or kiss her or anything. And you can see her blowing up. She is just wanting me to leave her alone. Now, these guys are not considered hugely medically significant to us, but if she would, if the her toxin got into like a sore or happened to get into my eyes or something, it could make me really sick. So we don't want that to happen. So we only handle her for short amounts of time. And then afterwards, we go ahead and we wash our hands very well. And then we also make sure that she is comfortable as well. And you could kind of tell whenever an animal has enough because they will do all sorts of things for you to put them down. And if you don't read that body language, then you or your animal is not going to have a good time. But she's really cool. So I'll show you. She's got a lot of pee and stuff in there because that's where I was holding her to where she wasn't peeing on my toes. And like I said, these are huge. They're also called marine toads. So if you see something, whether you're at a reptile show or a pet store, and they say that they have marine toads, just be aware that that is another name that cane toads go by. They are the same thing. They might have different localities, but they are the same animal. And locality just means that they were picked up. Like if she was picked up in Brazil, then we'd call her a Brazilian locality and things like that, or Costa Rica locality, depending on, whatever animal that we have. Locality just means where that particular animal would be found in the wild. And there's all sorts of different localities for these guys. And some of them get bigger than others. Just depends. They are invasive in the Caribbean islands. They are spreading fast, like I said, through Australia. Uh, and and just like with, and if you weren't here earlier, we were talking about how invasive species get to where they're going. It's not always the pet trade, but it could be. So some animals, like in South Florida, like the bigger snakes and stuff, are usually because of the pet trade. But things like zebra mussels, and then we have the big, huge Australian jellyfish that bloom out here. Sometimes those guys were actually carried in ballast water. So the trade, so like ships coming in and out of ports worldwide, they empty out and fill their ballast tanks depending on how much cargo they have in their hulls to keep the ship buoyant. Whenever they take in that water or expel that water, they can actually suck in or push out animals at different locations. Sometimes they pass away, and sometimes they find out, if it's an animal that has really broad adaptations and a broad-ish kind of fuzzy range, they could probably pick up anywhere that's almost the same as their habitat where they're originally found. So it just depends. Like I said, cane toads were originally released in Australia as a form of biocontrol because of the sugarcane beetle. They wanted to control those beetles because of the crops that they were farming there. Those beetles were destroying it. They decided to bring in cane toads because they're very large. So they figured that the large animal like that would be able to eat lots and lots of bugs. They just weren't they weren't ready for what other things that the animal will eat, and that bugs would actually, adapt or change their lifestyle to where they're up higher in the canes instead of down low where the toads can reach them. Because as big as these guys are, they do not climb very well, so they're not able to access. And they just kind of spread from there. It just depends. There's a lot of ways that animals in general can move, whether it's naturally or human influence. So things like coyote, while it does have human influence, their spread is considered natural but it's our issue because we've removed their larger predators, and so they're just filling in that niche somewhere else, and they're super adaptable, so they're able to come in, and they're a little bit smaller than wolves and stuff. So they're easier to kind of go under the radar, especially in heavily populated areas. But anyway, I'm getting off track. If y'all have any questions, or if you want to see another animal, all you have to do is request it. You can message me, or you can leave a comment on this this video. I have over 30 different types of animals. You can see them under my Our Animal tab on my website, which is naturetogo.com. So GEAUX, because I'm from Louisiana and we always have to be difficult with our spelling. You just go to my website and click on Our Animals. I have pictures, but I also have a list of by if they're mammals, birds, things like that. So just let me know and I'll be happy to. I'm just starting off with all the unlovable ones first, to kind of just slowly get through them. I have so many animals that are considered unlovable by most people, and I just want to show how special they are, not only to me, but why they should be special to everybody else as well. And I think that's it. Y'all have a great day. I will be back next week. The times change just because I'm trying to figure out if people like these videos better in the afternoon, or if they're better in the morning, or if they just like watching it on their own time. I might wind up just putting them together as just regular videos instead of lives. That way people can just interact and watch at their leisure. And so it's just something I'm still playing around. I know it seems like I'm being inconsistent with it, but I'm just trying to see which number, which time frame is the best. Wednesdays are usually best for me, because I have a lot more downtime during midweek, and I schedule it that way, just because I like a midweek kind of relaxing kind of thing. So I usually do the videos then. But if y'all have any input on that, don't be afraid and don't be shy to let me know. Other than that, I will see y'all next week. Like I said, we'll keep with probably this time in the mornings is a little easier. That way I don't have like my husband and kids and stuff running in the room. But we'll see. Y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all next time.